Hello everyone, welcome to Pepcoding. So today in this video, we are going to discuss a question that is find and replace pattern, right? So what is given in this question? Given a list of string, word and a string of pattern. So we'll be provided with two things, that is a list of strings that will be stored in words, and another string that is named as pattern, right? And what we have to do, we have to return a list of words that match the pattern, right? So let's see that what these two lines are meaning. These two lines are saying that we'll be provided with some words, something like this, and we'll be provided with a pattern. So we have to return all those strings that are matching this pattern string, right? Now in the sense of matching, this should be something like this. That is, it is not compulsory, say, it is not compulsory that if this is my string EPP, then the other string, sorry, then the strings, that is, these strings must also be equal to this. We don't want to return something like this, right? What we want to return, let's say, I have this string, let's take this string RSS. So if we map this pattern to this R, like if we start mapping our pattern to our string, that is going to be, if we map this E to R, this P to S, and again this P to S, then we can see that it is following the same pattern, right? EPP and RSS, these two are following the same pattern, right? Now let's take this element, or let's say let's take this RST, right? If this is my pattern EPP and I'm taking the string RST, and we start mapping these two strings, you can see that if we map E to R, okay, now we are going to map P to S, and again we are mapping P to T. Here you can notice that P was already mapped to S. Now again we are mapping P to something else. Therefore this is not a valid string, which means that this current string from words is not following our pattern, right? So we have to return those strings like this, which are following our pattern, that after mapping them we are getting same kind of pattern, right? It is not compulsory that these strings should be identical in nature, right? So with this, I hope you are getting what I'm trying to say. So what will be the approach over here? Like if we try to think that what is the approach going to be, we can see that we have to take this, let's say this is a string EPP. We have to just see, or we have to look for each and every word. Let's say for this M, N, O, and we have to check that after mapping these three, or these strings together, are we getting the same pattern or not? We have to check. In all the words, right? Like similarly for this RSS, just now we have seen that EPP. If we map it to RSS, it is giving us the correct pattern, right? And this is not giving us the correct pattern. So our basic approach is going to be what? Our basic approach is going to be something like this. Travel, travel on words array, travel on words, and if words, or let's say if strings from words are matching the pattern, matching the pattern, return, or instead of saying return, let's say store them as our result. So what I am trying to say is here is the basic approach is going to be what? We'll be traveling on this whole words array, right? Whole words array, and we are going to pick one string at a time, and we are going to compare it with our pattern. We are going to do the mapping, right? mapping them to each other, and we'll be identifying that if that word is following our pattern or not, and if it is following the pattern, then store them in the answer. That is going to be very easy approach, right? So to do that, what we can do, basic thing that that comes in our mind is we can use an hash map, right? Let's do this. Let's take another example. Let's take the word as let's take L P P P S S M, and let's take our pattern as A R R S P P, right? Let's take an example of these two words, right? These two strings. So if we create a hash map, how it is going to help us? It is actually going to be what? Actually, we are going to create a hash map. Let's say hash map, or let's, instead of calling it hash map, let's call it a generic thing. We are going to create a map of character and character. This means that we are going to store character and character. Now this character is going to be of what? Of pattern, right? That is okay, pattern character, that is going to be stored as key, and this is going to be value, and that is going to be character of word, right? So here how we are going to start mapping, we are going to pick this word and this word, and we are going to start mapping here. So A, and it is going to be L. So we are going to map these two together first, right? Let's start writing here also pattern character, and it is going to be what? Word character. So word character, we took this A and L from here. Now we pick this R and P, we map them in this map, right? So R and P are mapped together. Now we are going to add it here. Now again we are taking R and P, so R and P, and we are going to check that if R and P are already mapped or not. So with this, it is going to save our time, right? So R and P is already mapped, then there is no need to map, or there is no need to create a new key with same values, right? It is not going to make any effect, right? So with this, if we use hash map, can we create one more statement, something like this? What we have to do, we can just say that if characters are not mapped, then map them. This means that if the characters are appearing for the first time, that is this A and L are appearing for the first time in the hash map, then just map them, simply map them, right? Now what after this, we can say that if characters are not mapped, then map them, and if characters are mapped, then don't do anything, right? Don't do anything. For now, let's keep the statement as it is, right? So what these two statements are telling us, that if the characters are not mapped, that means if the characters are coming for the first time, just map them, and if the characters are not mapped, then already mapped, then don't do anything. But the second statement is having some flaws, that is having some error in it. What is that error? Let's see further. What if, let's instead of this S, let's put here, let's say L here, right? Let's put L. Let's put L here for now. Consider instead of this S, L is here, right? And if we continue with our mapping, if we continue, what is going to happen? For S, it is going to pick T, right? For S, it is going to map T. Further, for P, it is going to map S. For P, it is going to map S. And now if we come to this two thing, that is these two are done. Now for P, it is going to map L, right? For P, it is mapping L. So here you can see that this key is not coming for the first time, or let's say this map is not coming for the first time. So it is going to map this P with L, right? But as we know that the keys are unique in hash map or in any map, in any kind of map. It is going to do what? It is going to update this S with L, right? Instead of making this, it is going to update this L. Or by any condition, by this condition, it is going to not do anything, right? It is not going to actually map anything. So this might give me a correct this might give me a wrong answer. Why? Because our pattern is not being followed here. If this because P is being P was already mapped with S, right? P was already mapped with S. Now I'm trying to map P with L. So this is not following our pattern. So to avoid this, instead of this statement, what we can write is, instead of this statement, what we'll be writing is, we have to check that if characters are already marked or already mapped, then check if they are being mapped to the same characters or not, right? So what the statement is telling us that first we have to check that if the characters are mapped or not. If not, then map them. And if they are mapped, they are already mapped and they are coming again like this. If P was already mapped with S, now P is being mapped with L, right? P was already mapped here, and now P is being mapped with S, right? Here, sorry, P was mapped with S, now P is being mapped with L, which means that P is actually the value for P is updating. So we have to check that if characters are already mapped, then check if they are being mapped with the same character or not, which means the value should remain same. Which means instead of this thing, what it should be, actually what it was going to do, first P for PS, then when this come, when we are trying to map P with L, it is going to update its value to L. But now after that, if I try to check anything that if I try to check or try to get the values from hash map, what I am seeing, that P is mapped with L. But if I try to see that, if I get this answer, if this is an answer, what is going to happen? It is going to return me this thing, right? What I'm trying to say is, I'll show you a smaller example. Let's say there is a word egg, and there is this is our word, and let's say this is our pattern, or instead of this, let's say our word is something like this, ABC, and our pattern is AAC, right? If this is our pattern, then what is going to happen? A is going to be mapped with A. This A is going to be mapped with A. Now A is again going to be mapped with B, right? And what is actually going to happen in hash map or in unordered map? It is going to update this value to B, right? This new mapping is not going to be created. It will just update the value, and this C will be mapped with C, right? C will be mapped with C. So this is going to give me a true answer. Okay. I just followed this line, these two lines, then it is going to give me this as an answer, ABC as an answer. But this is not following my pattern ACC, right? And if I follow these two lines, first line this and second line this, these two conditions, if I try to follow these two conditions, what is going to be my answer? My answer is, if the string is something like this, ABB and PQQ, these are my two strings, then it is going to give me the correct answer. Why? Because P is going to be mapped with A, Q is going to be mapped with B. Again, when we try to map these two, it is going to check that if P is already mapped or not, and if it is mapped, then it is going to check that the current mapping is going to have the same value or not. And if it is updating the value, like in this case, if it was updating the value, then it is not my required string. The moment it is updating, just return false, right? And if it is not updating, then return true. This is the basic concept, right? I hope you are able to understand that what I am trying to say tell here, right? Let's take another example, and I'll show you one thing. Let's take another example. Let's take our word and our pattern as QM. Let's take this example and let's try to identify that let's try to identify that how we are going to start the mapping, right? Here this this is going to be my pattern character. This is going to be my word character, and this is going to be what? This is going to be my map of character, right? This is going to be my pattern. This is going to be my word character, right? So first, what we are going to do? We are going to pick these two words, right? A and S. We are going to map A with S. Second, we are going to pick R and A. R and A. We are going to map these two. R and A are going to be mapped. We are going to again pick this R and A. R and A. We are going to check that if this R, this key is coming first time or not, right? Currently, we are working on this key because in map we only check for the keys, that keys are not duplicate. Values can be duplicate, right? So we are checking that if R is already mapped or not. Yes, R is already mapped. So we are going to move forward. That is, we are going to go for P and M. We are going to map this P and M. Next, we are going to go where? We are going to go to Q and N. Q and N. Q and N. So it is going to map Q and N. Now this is a very important point. Let's see. This is what we were discussing just a while ago, and this is now going to be more clear to you that how we are going to handle this condition. Now here M is being mapped with A. Let's use some different color. M is being mapped with E, right? A. So M is being mapped with A. So here M as a key is coming for the first time, so it will create its own block, that is, it is going to be inserted and it is going to map with A, right? It is going to be mapped with A. But here, if you notice, this A as a value has been already existed. This means that A was already being mapped with someone. That was that character was what? That character was R. So here here we have to keep a check for values also. That is, we have to keep a check of this word character also, that if they are previously mapped with someone or not, right? So for this, what we are going to do, we are going to maintain what? Let's take, we are going to take a set of characters, and this set of characters is going to be a character. This set of characters is going to denote what? It is going to denote, or it is going to be of mapped characters, right? Mapped word characters. Let's call it as mapped word characters. So what this is actually going to do is, as we map these characters, as we are mapping these characters in this hash map or in this unordered map, it is going to store this character keys or character values in it itself, right? So for this first thing, for this thing, it is going to store S, it is going to store A, it is going to store M, it is going to store N, right? It is going to store this S, it is going to store A, it is not going to store this S because A is being already stored. It is going to store M, it is going to store N. Now when it comes to this A, we are going to do what? We are going to check in our hash set or in our set that if this value is already present in this set or not. If it is already present, that is, we are getting this value from here, right? A is already being A is already present in this set. So if we keep a check that the current character that you are trying to map in the in this map is already present in the set or not. If it is already present, then this means that it is being already mapped with someone else, right? And if it is already mapped with someone else, then how can you map it with some new character, right? How can you create a new key that is here? How can you create a new key with the same value? So if we are doing this, it is a wrong string, right? It is the false string. So from here, as soon as we get this, we are going to return false. So with this, I hope the concept is clear to you all. What actually we are going to do? First, let's give a quick revision. What we are going to do? We are going to travel on words, and if the string from the words are matching the pattern, then store them as an answer. So to achieve this, we are going to do what? We are going to use a map, and we are going to map the characters from pattern and characters from the word to each other, right? And to this, we are keeping this conditions that if characters are not mapped, then map them, and if the characters are already mapped, then check if they are being mapped to someone else, someone that is some new character or not. And to do this check, that is to do the second check. Now if you get this idea of the set idea, then it is this statement is clear to you all, that if the characters are already mapped, we have to do what? We have to check that if they are being mapped with some new character or not. And how we are going to do this check? We are going to use the set, right? We are going to check that if the character we are mapping, uh, that is if the pattern character we are going to map is being mapped with the same element that was already previously marked or previously mapped with some other element or not, right? So there's the basic logic. So let's try to code this, and with this you will be able to get more clear idea. Okay, let's start coding this question. Here there is we have to return a list. So let's make a list of string, and we are going to name it as answer is equals to new array list, right? So from here, what we are going to do? We are going to traverse to that array of words. So let's use a for each loop. Sorry, WTS. We are going to traverse on this words, and we are going to do what? We are going to call a function if, let's call it as is matching, matching, and we are going to pass it what? We are going to pass this string, and we are going to pass our pattern, pattern. And from here, if we receive true value, that is, it is going to check that if the string is the current string is matching to our pattern or not. And if it is going to return us the true value, we are going to do what? We are going to add this current string in our answer. So answer dot add this str, right? And from here we are going to return sorry, this answer. Now let's make this function. It is going to be public static boolean, public static boolean is matching. Just going to copy this thing here, is matching. Now what is this function receiving? This function is receiving a string str, and it is receiving another string pattern ng. Let's call it as pat only, right? Here, as we discussed, we are going to need one set, and when and another is another thing we are going to need as a map, right? So let's create this. So hash map of character type, comma character, right? And let's call it as map is going to be new JSH hash map, right? And another thing we are going to need is a hash set JSH set of character, let's call it as set, is equals to new sh set, right? This hash map is going to store new links or new mapping, and this hash set is going to check, or let's say it is going to store mapped characters of what? Map characters of this current string, right? We are going to store map characters for this current string, right? Now from here, what we are going to do, we are going to run a loop on this string is less than str.length plus plus. We are going to remove or catch the characters one by one. So let's name it as pattern character is equals to str dot caret I. Similarly, char of string is equals to, instead of this, it's going to be pat, because here this is denoting what? This is referring to pattr, pattern character, right? It is referring to pattern character, and this thing is going to refer to the string characters, right? So str dot caret I, this is going to refer to string character, so stri in the string characters. Now after this, we have to do two things, that is, if our map contains this character or not. First, if our map contains untai contains this key, which key? That is the pattern character, then do something else, do something, right? These are going to be the two things. Now first, if it contains this thing, then what we are going to check? We are going to check that if this map, or let's say if it is containing, then the value at this particular value for this particular key is, if it is not equal to this string character, instead of this string character, if it is not equal to this string character, then return false, right? This means that it is trying to map with someone else, someone new character, some new character from the string, right? So map dot get pch is not equal to this string character, then return false, right? Else we have to do one thing. What we have to do, if it doesn't contain, we have to create a new key, and we want to map this thing, right? But before that, we have to check that if the value that we are trying to put for this new key is already present in our set or not. So if set dot contains contains this sch, then return false. This tells us that it is already there and you are trying to map it with someone new. And after these two things, what we have to do, sorry, map dot put this key, that is pch, with this new value, that is sch, right? And also set dot add this key, that is sch, right? And after doing all this work, just return here So with this, our functions are completed. Let's try to run this code, and it is being accepted. Let's try to submit this code. It is taking some time. Yes, it is giving us the correct answer, which means it is passing for all the test cases. So what we did here, we just called to is matching function that is going to return us the boolean value that is true or false, that this string is already present or not, and if it is not present, it is going to start mapping. And as soon as it sees that there is some kind of false mapping or some kind of wrong mapping, it is going to return us false. And if we have already discussed these two conditions, when it is going to return false, and if it is not going to return false from this for loop, it is going to just simply going to return true, right? So with this, I hope the question was clear to you all. This is the explanation, right? With this, I hope the question was clear to you all. So thank you for this video. Let's meet in the next video.